Welcome to Esoterica, the podcast, where we discuss the obscure, offbeat, and unusual. I'm Chris Schultz.
And I'm Aaron Christian. You shower with your dog every day. Do you and your dog use the same soap? If so, one of you is damaging your hair. Dial Cross Species is specially formulated for both humans and dogs. You'll like that it gets you clean. He'll like that it smells like beef. So thank you for joining us today. We are going to be discussing
Wicked Local
band, A Loss for Words, and their debut album, The Kids Can't Lose. I have had the pleasure of meeting our townie friends from A Loss for Words. A Loss for Words, yeah. I don't know why I struggled with that name for a moment there.
And they're from Abington.
They are from Abington, yes. Fun fact, at Abington High School, there was a rock band class. And obviously I attended Abington High School and took the rock band class, because what else would I do? And we had the pleasure of having the bass player, Mikey Adams, in and talk about his time at A Loss for Words and really just being in a band. Most of us were in a band in the rock band class. I've also had the pleasure of meeting the lead singer, Matty Arsenault, through mutual friends, and he eats at Sub Galley all the time. So,
Nice.
So I thought it would be fitting to review a local band from around here that made it fairly big, I'd say, but it's probably esoteric to most of the ether.
It looks like they've certainly been prolific, and they've had a lot of past members.
Yes. Yeah, and I would like to think that their lengthy list of past members has to do with their, like, people who knew them in high school and like, oh yeah, I'm going to put a Wikipedia entry in for like every person that was in the band. But I feel like other than switching out a drummer here and there, like they had a pretty standard lineup of Matty Arsenault, Mark Dangora, and Mikey Adams, and then they've switched through drummers a few times. So,
Cool.
But without further ado, unless there's a little bit of an ado,
I don't have any ado.
there's no ados. We'll get right into the album and the first song, called Stamp of Approval. So a friend of mine a while back, I think, described the sound of A Loss for Words very accurately, and that is called frat rock.
You know, it's interesting. I've heard the term jock rock before,
Exactly.
but that was used to describe like ZLX, sort
Yes.
of like classic rock, Led Zeppelin,
Yeah.
and the ilk.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe I just referred to Led Zeppelin as the ilk. But, yeah, I saw that the description for this band was like pop punk.
Yeah, kinda.
I mean, this is one track that I've heard, so I would not call them punk, but
I think there are songs that do a better job. When you think of pop punk, I think it sounds a lot more like that, because the pop element, I think, starts to take away from what you would expect from punk.
yes.
Like, and I don't think we've listened to a lot of pop punk bands on this show enough that are like the thousands, the aughts, pop, like era pop punk, because I think this falls into that category very easily.
See, and I would consider, like, if you asked me what I thought pop punk was, like Green Day would be what I would say, because they're like, they want to be a punk band, but they're not punk.
I would argue that compared to a lot of bands that became big in the aughts, like Fall Out Boy or Escape the Fate, like there's a lot more pop punk there. Even Escape the Fate's kind of a stretch than a Green Day is. Green Day maybe back in the 90s, but not so much anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an old man. When I think of punk, I'm thinking of like Black Flag, Sex Pistols,
Yeah.
The Ramones, like legit
Right.
punk. And I realize that genre has probably evolved since
Yeah,
then.
but so when I say that frat rock thing, though, I mean, like, I'm a college student, and like and I don't hate anybody in this band that I've ever met, but like the music makes me think of the people I hate that try to be better than they are.
I can see that, and just like going into the lyrics of this song, there's some of that. This, they're railing against this girl for selling out. And
Right.
a lot of times, it seems to me that the people who are crying about somebody selling out are elitists.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I get you.
So that's all my comments for stamp of approval. Next up, we're going to go into 40 Thieves. I think has a really similar sound to Stamp of Approval, but we'll give it a spin.
Do you ever feel yourself blinded by the neon lights, hanging on, only to hang on? You shuffle day to day to be lost up in a fray, as your only saving grace is the saving face. Time goes by, and I wonder, will we make us?
I kept waiting for him to say Alibaba. Alibaba and the 40 Thieves.
I don't get the reference. I'm too much of a child.
That's okay. I was thinking, very not much apropos to this, if that's a sentence. It would be interesting if going forward, when we reviewed an album, like if one of us hated it and the other tried to defend it, that was just our thing, and be like, this sucks. This is the worst fucking album I've ever heard in my life, which is not the case. But
If you did, I mean, we could roll with that the rest of the episode, but
I enjoyed the song.
It's a lot like the last one.
Mm-hmm. They get a sound.
They do, and I think that's that pop punky kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and we talked about this a minute ago. When you think of punk, you think of Black Flag and stuff, or if you think of pop punk, you're thinking Green Day. But this definitely has a poppier sound to it than Green Day.
Yeah.
But also in a way, it's heavier, which is what I think is kind of characteristic of pop punk, because then you kind of have that wiggle room where if you did something heavier, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you do something poppier, it also makes sense.
Like if I was going to come up with a label, I think I'd call it garage pop.
I wouldn't.
Because it's got it's got a indie band feel to it and sound. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Pop is a weird describer.
Yeah, well, I think if you think of pop this way as in like the mainstream, right? And the mainstream in the aughts is probably this sound. So what's popular, the popular sound of punk.
True.
So
the only other album or music I've heard come out of Abington is yours. So
how sweet.
That's my only basis for comparison for local scene. Local, like micro local scene.
Well, there's one other band, is it Junction 18?
Wonder where they got that name.
I know, right? I think they actually did a show with the Lost for Words at one point, but I think it's the only other group out of Abington. So our next song, and I don't know if I agree with this because I don't think it's true, but they say where I'm from, you die with your secrets. I don't think anyone dies with the secrets. They're pretty all open and douchey.
Yeah, people air a lot more on Facebook than they should.
But let's take a listen to Where I'm From, You Die with Your Secrets.
Pull down the blinds and shut off the quiet world on the outside. Faster, but I'll face my own, so they won't see the bruises you hide. She's the only one with a say. Her face is blank like a chalkboard. We're rising like every day. A parachute when the wind.
So two major points with this song. One, this is classic aughts pop punk sound. You have a chorus that is catchy, falling down, very, very catchy thing. And the instrumentation really, really is characteristic of that sound in this song, more so than the past two we've listened to. This is definitely like I don't want to say Fall Out Boy, but it's just my go-to of like relative kind of thing.
Yep.
I really liked in the second chorus where they do like a pause and then kick in a halftime halfway through. So in a world that we both took a no, and halftime I think is a very awesome tool that any artist should use in their song to just beef up a section, because you feel that change where you feel the energy and just like life starts moving a little slower. It's kind of interesting.
Cool. Interesting lyrics.
Yes.
Again, I would concur that where we're from, you don't necessarily die with your secrets.
Yes.
But if we want to wax philosophical about that, there have been some things that have happened in town in the last year or so that are a good example of, obviously stuff was going on behind closed doors that people weren't aware of.
Right. Well, and I kind of like the line in here, don't open the blinds, that tired old vaudeville act keeps going on outside. So, same shit over and over again.
Yeah. And I think that vaudeville act also keeps going on inside. Like people, keep going through the motions.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to reveal what's on the inside.
Right.
It's a common motif.
Common motif. Well, moving along, our next song is Hold Your Breath.
Can you glance at me one more second before you walk out that door? Miles are standing in my way, feeling like a zombie every day. Your tired eyes will always get me home. She said, let's drive like we are the only ones.
Second song to reference zombies.
Really?
Yeah.
I must have missed on that because I wasn't reading the lyrics this time because I felt like I knew them enough, but clearly I should have been.
Yeah. Feeling like a zombie every day.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. This song is not as pop punk as the other ones. This is, again, trying to pinpoint, and I did this with Jim White last week, and I'm going to do it again this week. I'm going to try and pin the tail on the donkey's forehead. Matchbox 20. Okay, and that's a weird way to go, but it's the only thing I could think of around that time. I mean, like Counting Crows, I guess, which is, I guess, in the 90s kind of, but
Yeah.
it's got more of like a soft rock thing going, while also being heavy.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking of that, like going back to the pop punk label. Yeah. It's got a heavy sound, but I think one of the reasons why it's probably more in the pop camp is the lyrics.
Yes.
The vocals are polished,
right,
as opposed to, like most punk bands, like the lead singer is not a singer.
Yeah.
You actually have, and I mean, it's a good thing to care about how you sound. I'm not.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's a really good point. Matty's vocals are a lot cleaner and manufactured than I think a lot of other, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it makes it listenable.
And I know Matty can sing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's going into the studio and having all this stuff to it. But
yeah.
I think there is something to be said. Like, you kind of lose a little bit of the rawness of a punk band, but it's not necessarily a bad thing here. Like, I think whatever types of things they've done to this record has not been horrible to the sound. I think it sounds absolutely fine and listenable and enjoyable.
Well, that's a good thing. It's like the vocals on The Residents. Like, a lot of those, you might enjoy the song, but you don't necessarily want to listen to it again.
Yeah.
This is something that you want to listen to repeatedly. And
right.
That's a good thing.
Well, and while we're talking about feels changing up, our next song, the feel changes up quite a bit. It actually is an acoustic song, and it's called Mount St. Joseph. So why don't we give that a whirl?
No, we wait for everything that used to matter. Now all that's left is open battle scars. And all we wait for is everything that used to matter. Still damn hard to watch you fall apart.
So I don't know if I'm just reading too much into the lyrics, but this seems like it's a personal song.
Yeah, I don't know the story, to be honest, and I'm sure there is one. I know it's probably about a friend passing away
and not being found for a few days.
Yeah, I believe it was. I think it was drug overdose, and I think I know that for a fact. I know I watched something. They performed this with like a group of friends or something, and kind of explained the story, but that was a while ago. I don't remember the story offhand.
impressive that, like, for me, I was, just kind of, I don't want to say, what's the word I'm looking for? Zoning out with the lyrics. But I was listening just kind of in it. And then when it got to the part about the scent from under your door, like, punch me in the balls. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, because it's just like a nice song, and then all of a sudden it's like, haha, like, this is a horrible thing that happened.
Yeah, something heavy went down here.
Yeah, I saw them. So I had the pleasure of last year seeing them play live twice. They did like reunion type stuff. They did one in July, and then I went to Self Help Fest in Worcester. They did it in on one of the tinier stages. And I don't know if they did it at Self Help Fest, but they did do it in July, where they picked this up, and like towards the whole beginning part was like soft and acoustic, and by the time they got to that last chorus there, the whole band came in and really built the song up, and it was really, really nice. Cool. I think I have a recording of it somewhere, and maybe I'll slip that in as the clip here. Who knows? But really, really nice way to build up the song. A lot of fun.
For a moment, I was reminded of Neutral Milk Hotel, in that it's sort of like belting out.
Yeah.
Lyric,
yeah. So our next song is "The Promises You Keep," in parentheses, "Burn This Bridge," which we've already talked about. Where I'm from, you die with your secrets, so you're keeping your promises if you die with your secrets.
I will have to say, literally, like the first line of this song, "There's no soul left in this town anymore." Yes. Abington has no soul.
Well, let's not give too much away, and let's take a spin listening to "The Promises You Keep, Burn This Bridge."
There's no soul left in this town anymore. All the makeshift beach just shuffle up and soar. There is no absolute beyond what you know. I would have never believed you was that key to go. Father, Father, you gave us faith, a sweet reminder to carry on.
Okay, before we go any further, I want to take a minute to talk about the awesome folks at Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way. In fact, it's the way that we make a podcast. Let me explain.
It's free.
There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more.
And you can make money from your podcast. Best part, no minimum listenership.
Ooh. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
It's so cool. We found the service. We started using it. We're making podcasts.
Yeah, making podcasts, making money, having a good time.
So listen, you want to get you out there. You want to be heard. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Thank you. I thought you were going to go first.
That was a face-off.
So, "The Promises You Keep, Burn This Bridge." I think we kind of returned back to that pop punky kind of sound, but we still channel that soft rock kind of thing we were talking earlier. And that's a characteristic of this album I like. It kind of bounces around a little bit. You know?
It's funny. I knowing they're from Abington, I keep looking for something that speaks directly of our town, which, it doesn't and shouldn't.
Well, you know what we'll do at the end of this episode, because I know you want it, and I have it. At the they had a song, ironically called "The Kids Can't Lose," and the music video was shot at Island Grove.
Oh,
so we'll watch the music video. That'll be the last song we do. How's that?
Cool.
We'll get our Abington fix in. Do you have anything you wanted to say about?
No, I was confused. Something on the Genius site was confusing me.
Well, I don't think we have a lot to say on this album, this song. But we have half the album.
We have things to say.
But we'll move on to the next track called "Heavy Lies the Crown."
So here's the thing. When you're young, you are naive. And you feel like you can change the world and you can change people's minds.
Yeah.
And then you get older and you get jaded and you realize you can't. And you don't. But I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. You can make change. It's just that change isn't permanent.
To that, I think it's interesting. So you're referencing the line, are we naive enough to think that we can change the world? Are we naive enough to think that we can change their minds? Following that is last call for redemption, last call before we head back home. So is it redemption for thinking that we can feel that way? I would say so. Because think about it. You're young, dumb, and stupid. You think that nothing matters, you know?
Yeah.
And then you get to a point you realize that's not really the way that you should be thinking, because you can't change the world and you're not invincible necessarily.
Yeah. But it's tinged with sadness because there's a I wanted to say paragraph, but we're talking about a song, so it's a verse before that where remember when we listened to these songs, and I wish that I could feel that way again. I'm paraphrasing. That's a sad thing. Like, I remember being in my early 20s and listening to songs of revolution and being all excited about my involvement in the world. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd give anything to feel that way again, but I'd like to touch that one more time.
So what's really funny is I was listening to the song and all of a sudden a line came into my head and I was waiting for the line to come up and I realized it wasn't this song. And it's not even this band. And which made me think of another band to reference, and that's a band brand new. The song I was thinking of is called Logan to Government Center. And there's a line in there. It goes, "You're what makes New England so great." And I don't know why that's the line that came into my head, but I was waiting for it to come on. So that sounds like this song. If anybody's familiar with Brand New, kind of. It's this song's a little heavier than that song is, but there's a reference point. Not that you know what it is, but it's for our listeners. So there's that. Well, on the naive sort of vein, we're gonna listen to the next song called "Wasted Youth."
So while we were listening to that song, I was just kind of looking at their wiki entry, and it made me chuckle that 40 Thieves was posted on MySpace as a teaser for this album.
That's awesome.
I had a MySpace account.
I mean, I was alive when MySpace was a thing, but I don't. Facebook's always been the thing.
I actually had an account on Friendster.
Ooh, you're old.
Which predated both of those.
Yeah, I might have had a MySpace account that I made when I was like 11 or 12 because, everyone talked about MySpace and I didn't know it was outdated at the time. But, even then it was outdated.
I wanted to bring up on air that I was that I had bothered to research their background, and that's why I can pronounce Matty's name correctly.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a shout out to Tony Capolini.
Yeah. If that's the right way to say the name.
I hope it's not, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. So while winter takes its toll in hotels and hospitals, I'm purely speculating here, but a lot of people talk about how in the wintertime, depression becomes a little bit more visible.
Seasonal affective disorder?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. I don't know why I say visible, but I guess it affects people more, right?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to hide it.
Right.
You'll lose the energy to hide.
So I don't know if that's a reference to this or not, but, I'm still waiting here for something to believe. I don't know. I like to think of it that way.
Yeah, and that's I know that's not a unique to New England thing, but if you're a New Englander, then, you're familiar with how crappy winters can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did think, like, going to the actual lyrics of this song and talking about it's a generational thing, with the past being vacant and the hollow future. And it made me feel bad because Gen X, like my generation, we were the first generation in the modern
It's not too better
skill
than the
gen-
parents.
Yes, and it has not improved since then. So
I would argue that I think Gen Z and the following generation may bring that back. A lot of the things that I've been learning in school in my intro to business courses, that I think the priorities are different and more like those of baby boomers for Gen Zers, that maybe will be indicative of that change. And especially with all this, wanting to make college less expensive, which may come to fruition in one form or another in the next 10, 15 years. I would argue that it's possible to see that happen again.
I'm not a socialist by any means, but college should be free.
I don't disagree that it shouldn't be cheaper. I don't know if free is really
That might be going well.
an expectation.
I would think like just basic college, like let's say a liberal arts degree, free, because you're educating people. And if you want to specialize in something, then maybe that should cost some money. But you shouldn't be crippled with student debt for your entire adult life.
No, and I'm very fortunate of my situation, and I hope that others find their solace in their debt. But
Yeah, I know. I mean, for me, I wanted to be a film director. Like that's what I wanted to get into for college, and I was afraid of taking that risk. So I went into funeral service as a safety, and didn't end up doing either. But I think if it had been a little more attainable, then I would have taken the risk.
well, before we get too far off the beaten path here,
Right? We have an album to talk
yes,
about.
the next two songs are my favorite. So we'll listen now to Half Step Down, which is ironically played with the guitar tuned a half step down.
Every single day I wanna hear you say I had the worst day of my life. When I'm feeling down, getting down with my lungs, hanging out the inside. Face and those lonesome dimples. You tried to explain with sorrow and hate, bowed out in disgrace. I'll light the candle for you. I'm breaking my neck, you save yourself.
Genius, man.
It's not a genius if it's dumb, right?
Really, like, don't friggin' bother
Yeah.
if you can't do it right.
All your morals are like punchlines, and I swear the joke's on me. Like, that's the line that's supposed to be in there, and it's not.
There's several times they were singing, and I'm like, these lyrics aren't here.
I know you could care less. I know. Like, I know the lines in the song, but I feel like that person could care less in writing this. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
We're talking about the song, though. And what I was going to say here is that this song, and maybe even the next one, I think probably, are like the soundtrack to what the cover is of this album. Like, I feel like this is the song that's playing while all of that is going on.
Like a food fight in the cafeteria? Is it a food fight? It was just a...
Yeah. So I really hope that somebody from A Lost for Words is listening to this, because I need an answer. Is the cover of this album Abington High School's Cafeteria? Please drop us a line, esotericathepodcast@gmail.com, and let us know.
Is it or isn't it? The first line in the song, every single day I want to hear you say I had the worst day of my life, immediately made me think of Office Space. When Peter gets hypnotized.
Every day is the worst day of my life.
Every time you see me.
That's great. It's a great reference.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So the next song is Behind Our Backs, also one of my favorite tracks on the album. So let's get back to it. I always loved the instrumentation of this song because I feel like they're just really tight. I really like, I could feel this line when it was said. It's, I can feel it in the pit of my stomach. It twists and turns and ties and knots in my gut that won't come undone as fast as you left me trembling. I could feel it. I could feel my stomach tightening up.
Yeah, I get that.
It's a relatable thing. Like everybody has felt that your stomach's in knots.
Yeah. Behind our backs.
So Chris is too busy writing "dumb" on his dog during this song, so he has nothing to say.
Yeah, sorry.
But
Peed on the floor.
but that's okay. It was worth it. It was funny.
Yeah.
But we always encourage you to listen to the song and come up with your own opinions. We just tell you ours because we have nothing better to do. It's a pandemic. Last track on the album. We're gonna listen to 2 more songs, but the last track on the album is called "Hot Hand in a Dice Game." So that was "The Kids Can't Lose." That song was "Hot Hand in the Dice Game."
Good, strong song to go out on.
Yeah. I really like the drum in the back and forth between the guitars and the drums at the end of the track. Do do do. I like when I make mouth noises for drums.
I was trying to reconcile where the title of the song and the lyrical content of the song meet. Are we saying that the relationship is like a good dice throw?
I kind of was distracted by the fact there were a number of lyrics missing on Genius for me to actually put that puzzle together.
See, whoever it is on Genius to put the lyrics up, this is what you do. You ruin people's abilities to break down the song.
Yes, you do ruin that.
You cause a distraction.
Very much so. Well, I did say we would listen to one more song because we wanted that Abington element, right? So we are going to listen to the track called "The Kids Can't Lose" off their album Before It Caves. But I think that it's a fitting song to throw in because considering the name of the album, right?
Right.
So I want you to get all cuddled up with me over here because if I move my laptop, it's gonna disconnect everything.
Wow.
I want to say this on air, and that's what we're doing.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to roll myself over.
Yeah, so.
Get off, Mike.
And while Chris gets over here, we will leave you with "The Kids Can't."
It didn't sink in. He was sinking. No one ever understood what he was feeling. Don't let them drag you under. Don't let them get to you.
So we threw in that Abington element.
It was nice to see the hometown represented.
Shout out to Ed Toomey, who we both know through various things.
Yeah.
Being in the video. So, Ed, if you're listening, GWP.
And the Girl Scout cabin.
Yes, the Girl Scout cabin. It's more like the Abington Celebrates cabin now.
Yeah, the cabin in the woods
Cabin
up at
in the
Island
woods.
Grove.
Yes.
The crown jewel of Abington.
Yeah, it's the only place in Abington where you can't do major construction work without approval because it's the only historic district in the town.
The abolitionists used to...
That's the noises you make when you are an abolitionist.
Robble.
So that is A Loss for Words, The Kids Can't Lose, the song, and the album.
Nice. I enjoyed that. What do we get coming up next?
Well, next week, we are going to be listening to another person, not from Abington, but locally. Her name is Sydney Gish. She's actually originally from New Jersey, but she went to school at Northeastern in Boston. We're going to be listening to her album, No Dogs Allowed.
Sweet.
I got really into her a couple weeks back. I discovered her album, and I'm like, you know what? We should talk about Sydney Gish on this show. And that's what we're going to be doing.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Well, while you wait your week-long period for us to put out another episode, I want to remind you that you can visit esotericathepodcast.com for all your esoteric needs.
Christmas is coming, and you know what makes a great stocking stuffer? An Esoterica the Podcast t-shirt.
Yes, now available on esotericathepodcast.com and aaronchristianmusic.com. So go to either one and buy one. You'll get the same shirt.
That's right. And you can pick yourself up a copy of Aaron's new album while you're at it.
Oh, Chris, thanks for the plug. Well, thank you for joining us. And until next week,
stay esoteric.
You shower with your dog every day. Do you and your dog use the same soap? If so, one of you is damaging your hair.
Really?
Dial Cross Species is specially formulated for both humans and dogs. You'll like that it gets you clean. He'll like that it smells like beef.
That sounds great.
Jim, are you showering with the dog again? What the hell?